All right, let's start over. So thanks, Kyle, again for organizing this. This is a new venue, so thank you everyone for adjusting with the new venue. So my name is Aditi Sharma. Thanks for the introduction, Kyle. I work for Dell Technologies, and I'm a part of the security and trust team within the product and application organization at Dell. My team is a little unique because we work with many sides of the cyber product security, all these organizations in the pursuit of helping customers. So customer inquiries, anything customer facing, compliance, making sure we have the right automation in place to get the collateral out for the customers. That is part of our job. So you will see a hint of all of that in my presentation today. But my main focus of discussion today is around software bill of materials. The main things that I'm going to share today is a little bit on what is in SBOM, the SBOM lifecycle, some of the automation that we took care of, and then what can a customer or you as a company can actually do with that file, and what else is needed to be successful with SBOMs. So this is a picture I took when in my visit to McDonald's Observatory for Davis. Highly recommend if you have not been there. This was the first slide that we started with, and it was interesting because I had just started my work in the SBOM space, and I could kind of connect. So you will see a lot of conversations in the industry where the main focus is the comparison between what is the bill of materials is the food ingredients that you have behind your food packaging. So if you have a peanut allergy, and that's the analogy a lot of times is given, you need to know that there's a peanut allergy. And similar to that, similar concept applies to the software bill of materials, where there's an inventory that details out all the components and associated information in your software application. It primarily includes third-party libraries, dependencies, licenses, your package versions. A lot of other information can also be included based on the appetite of your risk. An SBOM can be produced at various stages of software lifecycle. You will hear a lot about runtime, build time, source code. So depends on what works for your systems, what works for your risk appetite again. And then there are two formats that is very much prevalent in the industry today. It is the SPDX framework, which is from Linux Foundation, and the Cyclone DX, which is OWASP, which is from OWASP. So really, an SBOM is at Dell, we have it in the JSON format typically, and it's a bill of information on what's in your software really. At minimum, it should include the minimum NTIA elements, which is the National Telecommunication Institute that came up with a couple of years ago. It is a great starting point. So why has SBOMs really gained attention? Since the last couple of years, starting with 2020, the attack around SolarWinds, the famous Log4j, and the NPM breach that happened just last year, the issue of supply chain security started more and more into discussion. And the main thing that our customers started asking, and we ask our vendors as well, around the software transparency. So around, when you see so many supply chain attacks, you have to see what works in your process to make it better. And that's where, the regulatory compliance, like the US Executive Order 14028 came into picture. And then recently, the EU Cyber Resiliency Act as well. The customers do want to know what is deployed in the environment so that they can make the right decisions for their products and their company. So this is a little bit of a snapshot on the right on software bill of materials files. Typically, this is an SPDX version where you need the creator created, when was it created, what is the package version, what is the package name, who is the supplier of that package, detailing out all of that information. One of the things that is that you have to think is, what is a quality software inventory, because software bill of materials is the end product, but what really builds it is the inventory that you manage internally. So this is a life cycle of this file, really. In the blue box, you will see I have the secure development lifecycle control. At the end of it, if you don't have the starting point right, it's hard to uh, get that end product. So the main thing that we focus on internally is making inventory creation as a standard release practice. It is one of the key controls that the teams have to kind of follow, where they have an inventory of all the components that's in their products. So maintaining dependencies, its own beast. I think about it like that. It's like the starting point, but without that, you just have kind of garbage information at the end of the day. So you have to collect all the third party open source components. And then how can you use that information before creating the SBOMs is really using the information to analyze vulnerabilities against them. And then when it comes to customers, you can, based on your internal processes, you can notify customers on status of the vulnerability. You can start with remediated ones, or the not affected ones. And that's where there's another jargon, VEX, a highly used term in the industry. It's basically a status that shows within the a particular CISA particular framework of file, which is from OSS, where you can share the status of the vulnerability. So that is all internal, where you can manage your dependencies. Then comes having that quality file, which is generating the SBOM customer facing SBOM file per release. It's critical that you make sure you sanitize the information, because a lot of times these tools, your vendors may have extra information in it. So vendors, or whatever internal tools you have, a couple of things that I noticed was we were starting to get internal directories in our SBOM, so we wanted to make sure we don't have them. So a lot of times it's difficult to explain the customer why a quick information is not easy to get. I talked about the multiple SBOM types again. Depends what is your problem statement. We do usually a source and a build binary scans and get the build SBOMs. The next step is, of course, storing the SBOMs. Why I have it here is because this is not an easy problem to solve, in my opinion. When you have a release, so we at Dell have servers, storage, laptops, all those products have, components like BIOS, iTrack, and whatnot. So they have multiple releases. It's not, you do a quarterly release and you're done. So when you have a minor patch or a major patch and you have to store these files, you have to make sure they are properly stored so that you can actually share that information with the customers in a proper way. So that's why I have it here. And then sharing the SBOMs with the customers. So I'm going to deep dive in the last section a little bit more today in my next few slides. And of course, once you share the files with the customers, there's always more questions on what you actually share, because your job is not done. There are a lot of questions that we get, and then we use that for improvements in our internal systems. That is like great feedback. I actually love it. You can use it for your improvements in your vulnerability management, process improvements, component management for inventory. And then it also enables sales to empower customers, really, because at the end of the day, it's also about sales motion. I'll take a pause. Any questions so far? Signing your SBOM. We do hashes. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question so they can hear it?
So the question was, do you sign your SBOMs? So we do hashes for our SBOMs.
Hi, Aditi. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Marcus Lucero. So I've worked for Palamita and Flexera, who are also providers of creating SBOMs through our software, excuse me. What applications do you use at Dell? I know that you're one of our customers. So are you using like Black Duck or Flexera or how are you producing, what would you recommend producing your SBOMs through?
We have our own platform that we use. We call it the dependency management platform. It's
Mhm.
based on all the scanners that we have. So it's not one tool that we use, but it's a combination of tools. I don't know
Oh,
if I want to name my vendors right now, but really, it's a long process
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
getting that final file. It's not, it also depends on what
Mhm.
product team you're working with. The client may have a different way of getting the inventory to us. A server team may have different, storage may have different. So
Sure.
it really depends on who is sharing with us. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more on my next slide. That
Oh
can
yeah,
maybe.
great. Cool. Thanks for your answer. I was just curious. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So diving a little bit deeper into the sharing of the files, really. Um, on the on the in the front view, you will see it's so easy. You have to just say share a file, right, with the customers and automatically. But a lot goes behind the scenes. So on the top, you will see I have the SBOM management space, and in the bottom, I have the customer request that we get. So um, we get the inventory from our product teams. They have their own processes in getting it to us. We have some mandatory. So I'm in the product and application security team. So it's like a centralized global team, and there are multiple product teams connecting to us. So the inventory that they share with us, we make sure it is in a certain format. It has all the required fields that we need, because an empty file is as good as nothing. So there are certain things that they have to make sure, and we have done a lot of automation in this space to get it to the dependency management platform. This is an application that is in-house that we have built to kind of track the quality of the inventory. Is it good enough to pass it on to a customer? So that is a whole another presentation its own, but yeah, that is one of the things we do. And then this flow you will see is something that was used for actually sharing the file with the customers. So you would store the file, and then when there's a customer inquiry, they will either come to the support teams, or they'll come to the account teams. They'll try to find, is there a file? Yes, no. They'll go to the product group. Not found. They'll come to the security rep. Then they'll come to the SBOM PM, which would be me or anyone helping me out. And then the cycle would go on. If there's a file in the database, we would share it manually. If it's not, we'd go back to the product security, the product teams, and why is it not there? It's incomplete. And like try to get that good file to the customers. Now, in a very good timing, when we have all the cards in place, the average time to deliver used to be 5 days for it. And that was an issue, because that's a lot of time. Because sometimes when you have a sales deal or a security questionnaire, or the customer really needs it for their own risk management, there's a lot of pressure around that. What else were we trying to solve? And I'm going to show you the new flow as well. But before I jump into it, that is one of the things where we wanted to get the file as soon as possible to the customer. Some of the other things that we was trying to solve was internal to our teams, which is, maintaining a quality product inventory in the dependency management platform. So understanding your components, so that we can actually associate the vulnerabilities to it. That is one of the things we are still trying to solve. It's not an easy solution, because there are a lot of issues with component identification today. You need to have package URLs or CPEs to really identify your components. But we are in that path. So that is our North Star, and we are working towards it. The next thing is, making sure the tool can help us in sharing, a standard file, not like 15 different kind of files with the customers. And we also want to make sure that we are compliant with all the global regulations, obviously. Next comes the process. We wanted to really simplify the process by reducing participants. Too many people, too many organizations, too many, I don't know, too many people trying to solve the same problem and trying to get information out, escalations and whatnot. So keep the process simple, and that's kind of good for everyone internally and externally. We wanted to make sure we provide a post-NDA access to validated SBOMs to customers. We always make sure there's a terms and conditions or NDAs in place for customers. It is not public today. And then we wanted to make sure we have the accelerated SBOM delivery for time to value, and also wanted to ensure that we have traceability to releases and the SBOMs, because when you make it as a standard practice for your release cycle, you should also have a way to actually have a proof of evidence, because it's always trust but verify, right? So that is one of the things. And then the last one is around people. We definitely wanted to eliminate the administrative work. When you're talking to different teams, you have to create tickets so that there's a chain of command, and we know who is doing what. So obviously, wanted to eliminate that administrative overhead, and we wanted to enable the product groups to take ownership of SBOM creation and management, and also make sure sales and account teams are aligned. So this was the post-automation SBOM delivery view, where now when the teams create, what we did is basically work with all the stakeholders from the product side, from the PSERT side of the house, because dependency management platform lives in the PSERT side of the house for us. Work with them, work with the IT resources to see how can we actually, once generate the file, get it straight on our product pages, the Dell website. So created a publication service, and then now we can share it with the customers as much as I would like to share with the customers, for every release. And I'm quite proud of this one, because now it's from 5 days, the time to deliver is actually instant. Any questions so far?
When you generate it, is it cadence? Do you generate on the fly when the customer requests it, or are the SBOM generated every so often, and whatever is available at that time is what the customer gets? I know you said
it's a combination. It's a combination. Good question.
Okay.
So our ask to product teams is every release they have to do it. So if they create the inventory, SBOM creation is automated after that. So we push them to create that inventory.
Okay.
And then, sorry, what was the other question?
No, that actually answered my question. Yeah.
But we just started this, so we don't ask them to go back in time and do for all of their releases. We want them to at least start now, so that we have something. A lot of our customers come reach out to us with old releases, then we have to do it on demand, of course.
Thank you.
I have two questions. The first one is around nested dependencies. How do you deal with open source components that are then nesting of other open source components? How do you do that backtest to ensure you're not just doing first party dependencies, but multi-party dependencies?
So we do use SCA tools for that, and there are certain SCA tools that the product teams also have. So it depends on your scanner, what you're using for scanning. Usually binary scans and source code scans do provide all of that information. Sometimes I do think there are challenges in actually knowing the connections with each other, because they may break at some point when you're creating something. But I think at the end of the day, what's critical to me is at least knowing that dependencies are there, both transitive and direct. We also try to push for third party vendor information as well. A lot of times, some of the SE tools are not able to find what's the transitive information in your operating system. So those are some of the challenges we do have. Some of the other challenges, and I'm going to talk about it in one of the slides as well, where just identifying components is a little tricky from one tool to another.
The second question is around your customer support page. How do you manage scaled abuse attempts? Because you could continually scan this inventory and then identify vulnerabilities in non-patched components. So how do you detect on scaled abuse attempts? Because if I have access to your form, I can look at what versions of components you have and the increased chance of being targeted by bad actors. Have you thought about the scale of abuse on this platform, and how do you do your detection engineering against that?
That is one of the risk, part of our risk management process, where we make sure we don't share anything internal that is internal to us. So open source transparency is something that we want to share. There are, of course, side effects of it. Sharing your information there are good actors, bad actors. So we have that risk, but the risk is also, the drivers and everything. With AI, everything is available today. So if you can download a lot of things from the website, getting an SBOM information is not that hard. So we did a calculated risk on that one, and then we do, of course, don't share anything internal.
Right, thank you.
She's still coming on. So. No.
Okay.
We did have something online that was asking, sorry, what about SaaS or SBOM? I asked 2 questions and went scroll. What about SaaS platforms? So how do you all deal with that?
That is not our priority at this time.
Great.
We're focusing on hardware. So we have scoped it out. That's a good question. We have scoped it out. Applications are welcome to do it as well, but we have scoped it out based on some of the regulations as well to make it manageable. It can be expanded to applications as well. The same system will work for applications as well, so they're welcome to use it. But mostly Dell as a company, we sell more hardware. So there are applications as well, but I think that is the priority. Right. Well, with all of this, the real benefit of SBOM is actually what vendors do with it. You can have like 10,000 files sitting in your repository, but if you don't actually use it, it's like of no use. So you have to use it for vulnerability response and beyond. There are four quadrants over here. I'll try to go through one from top left. First of all, vulnerability and risk management. This is like the topmost. Sorry, something is blocking my view. This one is very critical because it can help you with the visibility into third-party components. It can also enable, faster vulnerability identification. This is not easy, I must say this, because what you generate from one tool may not be read by another tool because they may not have it in their knowledge base. So it cannot be 100% success, but you have to start somewhere. And that's where I think we are heading towards. And it also lowers your remediation costs because you don't want to know something once you're hacked. You want to know it before, so obviously. And then compliance and audit readiness. So this is critical for us because we get audited and we have a lot of questions on the third-party transparency and third-party supply chain risk. So that is one thing that, it provides a verifiable inventory of information. It is a compliance act. So that is one thing we support for audit readiness. The software lifecycle and maintenance, it simplifies software maintenance by improving dependency tracking. This is something you can also use for your end of life management. A lot of components are, end of life, and there's no easy way to track them. This one is a little difficult one, but it does support. If once you start managing your dependencies, you can also start managing the end of life components as well. And the last one, of course, ensuring your third-party suppliers are following good practices, because you also have a lot of vendors who are supporting you. So this is a good way to also check somewhere that are we following all the right practices that are needed in the security space. It does accelerate incident response by quickly identifying impacted components. This is my favorite slide on this deck because I see this discussion on LinkedIn all the time about SBOM being useful or not. Folks coming up with different situations like this didn't help. Obviously, it is not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve world hunger. It does increase like you rightly asked, it does increase the likelihood of exploitability because you know a lot more information than you knew before. It lacks some insight on how the software component is integrated into the product. where is it integrated? You have to invest a lot of time in actually doing that association. It adds to the diverse and inconsistent security requirements globally. There's a little bit of patchwork compliance everywhere, different rules coming up from all sides of the house. It can also be sometimes a little bit misleading factor because real value lies in having your inventory in place, not just a file at the end of the day. It does complicate the customer vendor relationship a little bit because there's a little bit more demand now. And then it does limit maturity a little bit. So it encourages less mature suppliers to adopt SBOM only software practices, which is a good addition. So SBOM practices are a good addition, but the whole purpose is for vulnerability management. So that should not lose sight. With that said, what else is needed to be successful with SBOMs? Do I still have time? I do have some time. Okay, I'll go fast. I think I have 2 more slides. So there are a lot of words in here, but main thing that I want to just bring from here, what you really need to be successful with SBOMs is managing your, third-party code, really internally, integrating those inventories in your SBOM process, not just, if you have scanned something, don't just let it out, use all the integration points, accumulate it, and then use it forward. We do need improvisation of component identification. It's sometimes really hard when different SBOMs are using different methods. We focus on package URLs. I think that's where it's useful that way to just follow one so that we can actually identify different inventories. The other thing I want to point out from here is around actually, let's see, conduct root cause analysis, the last one where you have to do the root cause analysis afterwards in the whole process because a lot of times we miss, okay, why did we miss it? And we just miss it and let it go. But if we miss some components, how can we go back in the next release and make it better? So SBOMs move us in the right direction for improved vulnerability response. It empowers companies for third-party dependencies. It also helps vendors update embedded third-party software, of course, transparency and compliance. That's it. Thank you.
So there are questions online. Scott wants to see, he posted 3 fairly deeper questions. He may want to talk to you later. You must share an email or you can come off mute and ask hopefully one of them. Scott, you want to come off mute and ask one of your questions? Sorry, we're almost done.
You
Yeah, we'll take one of them. In terms of vulnerability management, in terms of vulnerability management, is there a deduplication engine service across various scanning tools that you use? Yeah, for sure.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, they do deduplication.
Yeah.
So, well, I would ask other questions, but they're fairly lengthy too.
I can answer the last one. SBOMs best managed in a central repository or decentralized. Think of in terms of audience managing. I think that's what I was referring to. We want to centralize it for a standardized. How should I explain this? Okay, let me take a step back. So when you have 10 types of inventory coming in, when you're sharing something with customers, you cannot share 10 different things because they're not going to understand. One customer can actually buy multiple products. So if you share multiple kind of SBOMs, multiple kind of different formats and everything, it just looks disorganized, not correct. You have to answer more questions. Why is what? So we get everything from outside and we try to centralize it so that it's easier for us to manage our vulnerabilities. Did that answer your question?
It does. Anything else in the room? We are basically out of time. So thank you for everybody for sticking with us on the audio video. We kind of worked it out, got it working, and thank you for the great presentation, Ethan.